Hey everybody, welcome to another great edition of Coach's Corner today here on April 21st, Easter +1. Hope everybody had a great Easter. And I'm not going to be on the studio for the whole show. So unfortunately, the Coach's Theology Corner today will probably have to wait for another week or so. But we've got a lot to talk about. We'll do it all here on Coach's Corner.
Coach's Corner with Coach Heck and the infamous Coach Patrick King. You're stuck with me, man.
I'm stuck.
You are stuck with me. I ain't going anywhere.
There's a lot of people that are jealous of me for sitting here, and there's some people that there's a little sympathy going on at the same time.
There's more people that are sympathetic to you. I'm just saying that much right now. Just remember what Ron Hecklinski said today. Man, you ain't that good. The scouting report said you were pretty good. You ain't that good.
Coach's Corner with Heck and King is proudly presented to you by Tony Letcher with Health Markets Insurance, On Funeral Homes of Mishawaka, Frick's Driving School of Mishawaka, and the Harbor Group Planned Wealth down in Anderson. Before we get started, make sure and like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and comment in the chat. Now, here's Heck and King.
Yes.
Wow, and our lighting actually doesn't look terrible.
We are at the great Linebacker Lounge in beautiful South Bend, Indiana today, just off of the Notre Dame campus. And just a beautiful day. I'm joined tonight on my far right by the great Johnny B. Good, Johnny Overmeyer, Pat King, probably the next, he'll be the next phase or the next wave of Hall of Fame coaches in the next year or two. And then yours truly, Ronnie Hecklinski. And we have a special guest here that we're going to get to in a few minutes. But first of all, it is Dingus Day. Are you kidding me? Dingus Day in South Bend, Indiana for Polish people. Now, understand this. Hecklinski.
This is like a national holiday.
This is my holiday. This is a national holiday. And I got a liver transplant. Are you kidding me? I got a liver transplant on Dingus Day and can't partake. But and obviously
Let me ask you this: what nationality is the liver? Does it make a difference?
The liver, no, it does not make a difference. The only difference it makes.
Does it have a stamp on it like a flag?
Here's the difference that it makes.
Do we have to put a tariff on it?
It's still working. My liver's still working, man. So from that standpoint,
30 years, that was back during NAFTA, so we didn't have to worry about it.
It's 29 years, man. It's 29 years. So I'm literally a poster boy for liver transplantation.
Oh yeah, you are.
And I see my doctor every 3 months in Chicago, so it's really cool. But Dingus Day is a Polish holiday. It's been that way for a lot of years. It's the Monday after Easter. But it also coincides today with the Boston Marathon because the Boston Marathon is the third Monday of April.
Well, I will tell you this, to interrupt you on that. I was in Nashville, Tennessee this morning, and there was only one other person there that had ever heard of Dingus Day. That was my wife.
There you go. Well, forget those people that ain't heard of it. Johnny, you heard of it, right?
Oh yeah, I'm not
You're
Polish, but I've heard of it. Oh yeah, I'm a South Bend boy. I know what Dingus Day is all about.
I mean, the West Side Democratic Club.
Absolutely.
MR Falcons, ZB Falcons. The South Bend Fire Department Hall. Here at the lounge, at the Linebacker.
At the home of the Irish, here we are at Polish Day.
the home of the Polish. And so 1968. Okay, let's go back. 1968, the West Side Democratic Club on Dingus Day. Who was in South Bend?
I'm a history teacher, so I know.
Who?
Bobby Kennedy.
Bobby Kennedy in South Bend, Indiana. Politicking for, campaigning, and that's what a lot of people do on Dingus Day. And Bobby Kennedy was in South Bend at the West Side Democratic Club. How about that?
Yeah, you figure that was middle of April?
Yeah.
And May, 2 months later, he was out in California campaigning.
Yeah.
That's it. That was it.
Yeah, no, that broke my heart, by the way.
So that was a busy summer.
In 1968, Johnny B. Good, how old were you?
5.
1968, we were 12.
Same as you.
We were 12. I was a big 12-year-old in Little League Baseball on the mound.
Little League Baseball.
I mean, throwing seeds, not changeups. I mean, in 1968, we never heard of a changeup.
No.
Seeds. We were throwing dimes, right?
The only time you threw a changeup that the ball was wet.
Yeah, exactly. And my dad wouldn't let me throw my dad would not let me throw a curve.
No such thing as a curveball.
No. Bad for the elbow.
That's when the ball's going on the golf course. That's when you hit the curve too, right?
Yeah.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
So I did promise you that we are going to be joined initially by South Bend, and not only South Bend, but a Northern Indiana, Michiana legend, right?
At least.
Yeah.
No, that's the triple legend, not just a legend. This is a triple legend
At
here.
least.
And it's not Johnny B. Good.
No, I'm not even.
It's not Pat King.
I will never be in the conversation
and
that
it's
I
not,
have with our special
and it's
guest.
not this Hall of Famer.
And we don't have him in the picture because he has a voice for radio.
Exactly.
Yes.
Everybody will know who it is.
The great Bob Nagel. Bob, how are you, man?
I am terrific, gentlemen, and great to be in your company and to know where you've been and where you're going, and so proud of your efforts. And as you said, Hall of Fame coach over here on your right.
Pat King.
But that was for golf.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a hell of a point.
Yeah.
Hall of Fame for basketball in his own mind.
Well, hey,
Yeah.
when you have given so much of yourself to these kids and helped develop them, as you know, at Mishawaka High School, it's a great gift that we have in our community to be able to do that. And I want to say a special hello to John Overmeyer for all he's done. You talk about a kid that you guys were talking about being 5 years old. I was 14 at that time, and but to see a young guy that wants to do something, how do I do it? Well, you got to put in your time, you got to put in your effort, you have to talk when nobody's listening, and you get to talk when a lot of people are listening, and you keep developing your craft, and then you come to where coaches, players can trust you, and they love what John does for the community. So, John, it's great to see you, and what a crew. I'm not sure who lost a bet or won one.
Yeah, exactly. My wallet's empty, so I obviously lost, Bob. Bob's been a longtime friend of mine, broadcasting brother. And, Bob did a great job when he was behind the microphone. I idolized Bob. I worked with Bob a little bit at a local TV station for a number of years, and Bob was one of the best. And good to see you, my friend. I'm glad things are going well for you. And
things are going great, and my family's been so supportive, as we all know how important that is. And it's just great to be up and around, and I'm looking for maybe a little golf by the end of the summer.
I said, now, don't you think some of your rehab had to do with just general orneriness?
Well, I didn't see many of the tenders of bars during that period of time.
No barkeeps.
No, but I was in some trouble, health-wise, and got through it. Had some infections. I mean, I think I have a PhD now in internal medicine.
I can imagine.
But we all get those trials and tests. And
Yeah, and I think the thing that's amazing, and like I said, a couple of minutes ago, it's been 29 years since my liver transplant, and once we, this is what we do. We make a living out of talking and stuff like now. I mean, we're not coaching anymore.
No,
we're talking it up. But the one thing that we can definitely say is how great medicine is, and the doctors that worked with me. I know you were. Had a deal with your lungs
a year ago. Yeah.
In the fall, and what you've been through, Bob. Tell a little bit of your story for our listeners tonight.
Well, I couldn't wait. When I retired, my right knee had gotten really bad. And, you go to high school games, there aren't many press boxes that have elevators.
No.
And Mishawaka's 56 steps, and Penn was 62 steps. And
so he's got them counted because he knows.
I'm telling you. And so we finally I worked for Channel 46, WHME. We had a great partnership there for 33 years. And we sat down and talked about, it might not be in my best interest to keep climbing steps. And so I was able to work out a nice retirement package, and I couldn't wait to get my knee replaced so I could play more golf. And the knee replacement went well. I was walking with a cane 2 weeks later. And then I got a blood clot in my leg, and the leg swelled up. The surgery popped open twice. and they got an infection in there, and people have had that and fought it. Man, they got antibiotics to do all kinds of things, but I was fortunate to find a place. Healthwind Hospital is over 100 years old, but they've got some people there that are terrific in the therapy department, especially. I got to a point where I was walking about 500 steps a day and riding a bicycle for 40 minutes, and finally got myself healthy enough where I could get back home, which was about 2.5 weeks ago. So I'm really blessed, and I've got a great wife who's been my number one supporter. You imagine what it's like to drive out to Healthwind every day.
Oh, man.
Oh, Lord. But
I mean, you got to drive past Clay, right?
Oh, God.
Who wants to drive past Clay?
The old Clay baseball stadium with Jim Reinbold, right down the street from us.
Yep.
But just looking forward to a lot of things. I have 3 grandchildren I want to walk during the summer, or they can walk me, I guess. But and then I'd like to play golf. There's a lot of guys I've seen over the years with prosthetic legs that are able to play golf and have fun with it. So it was a big part of what I did, and that's usually where I saw Pat.
That's where we saw each other.
Especially in the spring. And so I just look forward to that, and I just really feel blessed that I got beyond, as you did, and you just appreciate every day for a lot of different reasons. But to be out on Dingus Day and have a little...
It doesn't get much better than that.
Have a little kielbasa, some of those noodles.
Little cocktail. I mean, have you had a cocktail tonight?
I can't,
Yeah, I know. I can't either.
Yeah, I'm on a lot of meds, and whatever my wife doesn't know is...
Yeah. Here, I can turn the speaker down here.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll do that off the air.
No, I'm also Irish Catholic, so I have a certain obligation, I guess. But
An obligation. I like that. How's that a mix? That's a nice mix.
To have missed seeing, a lot of the kids that we covered before I retired, and then I can't wait to see this kid as a senior and whatever. And we've had so much success in the community, and we've got, we should mention that we just lost a good friend in Phil Teagarden.
Oh, man.
Coached at, when he coached at St. Joe, I was at Marion, and we had never lost to St. Joe. Now, Bob Otalski had been an assistant coach at St. Joe, took over at Marion, wanted to play St. Joe, and their athletic director, who shall remain nameless, said, "You're not good enough to be on our schedule."
Ouch!
So Coach Otalski got hold of Bishop. He said, "We're giving away a big payday here. We really need to play them to support our prayer, whatever." So he sent a directive, St. Joe will play Marion. And for 7 years, we didn't lose.
Oh, my.
And that's why Father Bly put on some weight. But
okay, so I got to back up now. So Bob Otalski, he gets it rolling. He's great at Marion, but then Bob Otalski moves on to Indiana University.
Right.
Who takes over for Bob Otalski then?
At Marion?
Yes.
Well, that might have been your brother,
Mike Hecklinski.
Mike Hecklinski. That's
yes.
Right. Anyway, first time we played St. Joe when they hired Phil Teagarden, and they told him in no uncertain terms, "You are to beat Marion."
As bad as you can.
Yeah. The first year we played him under Phil Teagarden, Marion rolled to a 2-0 victory.
Rolled to a 2-0.
They had lost Mike McCray, their quarterback, who was a big time. He went to Illinois.
Yes.
And Mike was out, and we lost Bobby Parr, who was our top running back. So both teams played it very close to the vest. And dear friends of mine, Tom Tobolski and Dave Hintz were on special teams. And my buddy from over at LaPorte High School, athletic director, former football coach.
Bob Schellinger?
Bob Schellinger. Bobby was a center at St. Joe.
Hiked it over the punter's head.
He hiked it over the punter's head, went in the end zone. He picked it up, and our 2 guys tackled him for safety.
Yes.
2-0.
And the game was over in about an hour and 15 minutes.
and Bob Schellinger, he talks about that till this day.
Oh, I know.
And every time he talks about it, he's got tears coming down.
And there was a Schellinger at center at St. Joe for like 15, 20 years.
Yes.
Including his sister, who was tougher than all this. I mean, I'll tell you what, that was a great family.
South Bend police officer.
Right.
And yeah,
and it was a great tradition. But then they beat us the next year 33-0. And Phil Teagarden, I always say, my buddy Tom Tobolski's got that clipping in his wallet. Carries it to this day. Marion beats St. Joe 2-0. Tobolski and Hintz make big tackle. And he reached into his wallet and he pulled out one that says, Marion loses to St. Joe 33-0. He says, you want to keep looking at headlines? I said, no, I'm good with that. But
so Mike McCray graduates, right?
Yeah.
And then who comes in to play quarterback for St. Joe?
It might have been
Frankie Johnson.
Frankie Johnson.
Yeah.
For 3 years.
Yeah, the lefty.
Yeah.
I mean, Frankie Johnson to Mike Crobot.
Mike Crobot. Wow, you're bringing up some great names.
Yeah, but then, and let's go back to Marion.
Yeah.
Johnny Morrow, Nick DeChico, Nick Barnes, Bubba Simon.
Tommy George.
Yeah,
what are you trying to say? Oh, yeah, we had talent too.
I'm trying to say that back in those days, football was loaded. At Clay, you had Elmer Britton.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great coach. I mean, John Gruden.
John Gruden, yes.
Yeah.
And Tom Kosis.
Yeah. John Costas, yes.
And the big guy that went to Notre Dame, the big tackle. What's his name? Anyway.
I'll get to it.
Rosenthal from Penn?
Yeah.
I mean, Mike Rosenthal from Penn? Yeah.
Well, how about an Adams? You know, when
Chubby Phillips
beat us.
Chubby Phillips.
He ended our 23-game winning streak.
Yeah.
And the clock was not working. And
imagine that at Adams. No, school field.
But Bill Schlund, athletic director at Clay, was also the referee that game.
Oh, no, yeah. That's how it rolled. That's how it rolled.
That sounds like Logan Sport basketball.
Yeah.
Using the custodians for referees.
The berries. But anyway, we had so many. We could sit here for 2-3 hours and talk about great memories and names and things like that. But the thing is, athletics was such a gift in this community and continues to be in some ways, but needs to be more important. You know, I'm not sure how many kids graduate from high school and say, oh, I'll never forget geometry class. They might say, I never forget the 2-0 win over St. Joe. But,
Yeah. And Bob Schellinger's one of them.
Yeah.
Bob Schellinger's one of them. Well, so when you talk about your career and then John's career, Pat and I, we're a couple of slaps just talking about it. But you two guys are pros, and you guys told the stories. I mean, for a lot of years, and made those games into stories where people listened to them.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I did Notre Dame women's basketball for 33 years. And having a great association with Muffet and 2 national championships and Final Four teams was great. And I'm in the process of writing a book. Now, I'll be the only guy that's written more books than he's read. That's a Lou Holtz line.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm looking forward to capturing so many great memories, not only of women's basketball, but men's basketball and, football with all the great coaches we had. And somebody said, what are you going to write about Charlie Weiss? And I said, well, there's 3 blank pages. No, I've got about 5 or 6 really good Charlie stories that people would say, are you kidding me? But, he was that way, and he came from the Parcells School of Public Relations.
Yes.
Like he told his coaches, you're not playing in golf outings. We're not donating gear. We're not doing. What's that about? Well, in the pros, you get asked every day for,
Yeah, no, you go to work.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to work. So I got a great Charlie Weiss story, and I know that you will know exactly where I'm coming from on this story. I had a mentally handicapped sister, and of course, Charlie Weiss has a mentally handicapped daughter. And there was a great article in the Chicago Tribune. I read the Chicago Tribune every day, and it was about Javi Baez. Obviously, you know Javi Baez. The
Cubs.
The Tigers signed him for $190 million. He's hitting 205.
Yeah, but hey,
he's hitting 205.
He's helped to stay in first place.
Yeah,
we're still in first place.
But Javi Baez had a sister who was mentally handicapped, and the Chicago Tribune did a story on Javi Baez's relationship with his sister, and Javi Baez talked about how he, after every game, he would call his sister in Miami, Florida. His sister wanted to know how he did, and his best friend in the world was his mentally handicapped sister, and her name was Noelle. I cut this article out, and I sent it to Charlie Weiss, and I said, Charlie, you don't know me. I'm just a guy that grew up in South Bend, and I got a sister that's mentally handicapped. And this article meant so much to me because of my sister. And I know this article will mean so much to you because of your daughter. I sent it to Charlie. About a week later, I get a call from his office. and it's his secretary. He says, Mr. Eklinski, Charlie Weiss wants to talk to you. Charlie Weiss gets on the phone, and he was in tears thanking me for that article. And Charlie Weiss said, Ron, he said, and I told him I was a big Notre Dame fan, and he said, you have carte blanche to every Notre Dame practice, to every Notre Dame game, whatever you want to do with Notre Dame. I mean, after you sending this to me about my daughter, you can be involved in anything you want to be involved with. Wow. I was in heaven, but here's what happened. He got fired 3 weeks later, and I never got to use any of it. But nobody saw that side of Charlie Weiss, and he didn't let people see that side of him.
Not very often, but he did build the facility we have here
Hannah's house,
which is terrific. He told me one time, he says, I cut stories out of the paper. What do you mean? He said, well, there was a guy that worked at Notre Dame in the architecture building in maintenance. Now, he had been through the Life Treatment Center with Notre Dame people. He'd gotten dried out. He'd gotten married. His whole life was turned around, and he was just the most valiant guy when it came to talking about how successful his life was going. He gets stung by a bee and dies of anaphylactic shock.
Wow.
Right? So Charlie cuts that article out and leaves it on his desk for maybe 2-3 weeks. Calls it, because at the end of it says, if anyone wants to donate to help pay for final expenses, the guy didn't have any money. So Charlie cut it out, and then he called the funeral like 3 weeks later. How's that going? Yeah, we got a few bucks in it. Said, what's the balance? The guy goes, $2,600. He says, I'm going to send you a check. Couple of conditions. Number one is don't tell anybody that I did this. And he sent him a check for the balance of the funeral. And he said, I used to talk to the guys with the New England Patriots. Do something for somebody. You can do 100% good for somebody for a fraction of what you're making. And 20 years from now, 10 years from now, 5 years, you're not going to be making this money. So while you got it, do something. And so he was really adamant about that. But there was, I did the luncheons with him for 5 years. And it got to be tough. One time we were 2-8. And I'm introducing this guy, and I'm saying, folks, nobody's trying to get this thing turned around as much as our head coach. Give him a warm welcome. Here's Charlie Weiss. And we were down to about 800 people. Yeah, it was really tough. And,
looked like a Bob Uecker story.
Yeah. And, we had so many, Jerry Faust was as good a man as you could find. Mm-hmm. He couldn't win. It's tough to win.
Yeah.
But he was always well representing Notre Dame. And Charlie's son is a very successful offensive coordinator.
He's doing pretty well.
He's doing really well. And Charlie was almost like talk to Mark Edwards, who, by the way, is right up here on the wall.
I saw that.
And, Mark was with New England, and he said one of the Super Bowls, Charlie totally changed the game plan at halftime. He said, now he changed everything, blocking schemes, this and that, at halftime. Now, halftime was a little longer because they used to have a big show. But he said he came out and he handed this to us, and these are the changes. We're like, you got to be kidding me. And we ended up winning the Super Bowl. And, Parcells is like, people were saying, boy, Charlie Weiss is unbelievable. He changed the game. He goes, that's what the hell I hired him for. Not giving any credit to anybody. But,
exactly.
He was a brilliant football mind, and he had a lot of really good things that he did.
So obviously, being laid up and rehabbing, obviously you had a lot of time to watch Notre Dame football, listen to Marcus Freeman. Give me your opinion of Marcus Freeman.
Well, I saw Marcus last Wednesday. He was at the Moose Krause Hall of Fame Scholar Athlete Dinner. And it was great because Gary Sieber was filling in as the MC. And he said, no, what we've done is we've gotten a bunch of questions together, so we'll ask you questions. So he said, that's fine. So Gary says, number one question, who's starting the quarterback for you this fall? And Marcus said, well, we'll find out. But he answered all the questions, and he always had a relationship back to the student athlete and what you could do. And, Marcus played at Ohio State for Jim Tressel, who was one of the finest people I've ever met. And I had a chance to know him and still know him when we were doing Mid-Continent Conference basketball games. I had been Jim's host when his father was put into College Football Hall of Fame. they put one of us on the board of directors with each one of the recipients. You know, George Rogers was there. There's a lot of big names. I get Lee Trussell. And I'm thinking, who's Lee Trussell? Well, he had passed away, but he had coached all these games at Youngstown State, had a great record, Hall of Fame.
Sure.
So he's going in the hall. And I meet Jim and his family, take him around South Bend a little bit. If you need to shop here, you need to whatever. And then went to the dinner with him and had a real nice weekend. And he's just the classiest guy I ever met. So he was the athletic director at Youngstown State when we did one of their basketball games. And my guys told me, hey, your halftime guest is going to be Jim Trussell. I said, well, good. I know Jim. And they go, you don't know Jim Trussell. I said, I do. We had a nice interview. And then after the game, he asked me if he could talk to me. He wanted to see if we could put together a network to carry Gateway Conference football, which Youngstown State was in. And we had a capability of putting them on all over the world with our satellite.
Right.
And they couldn't get the other coaches to join in. And so it never really came to fruition. But about 2 or 3 years later, I get, the big announcement, Jim Trussell's been named the new head coach at Ohio State.
Wow.
And I said, wow. I know this guy.
I know him.
You don't know him. Yeah. So he got the job, and Marcus was recruited and played for him. And Marcus gives so much credit for his development and everything to Jim Trussell. Now, Jim got caught up when his players were selling rings and jerseys and stuff. And rather than bring this kid in and this kid in, he said, look, this happened on my watch. And he had been at Youngstown State. Ohio State's a little different. Youngstown State, you have issues over $100,000. Ohio State, it's $100 million. And he just said, look, this is on my watch. I'll take the blame. And he resigned. So he lost his job at Ohio State. And you know what he's doing now?
What?
A podcast. Yeah, no, actually, he's the president at Youngstown State University.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
And so
I did not know that.
And that's one of the guys that Marcus is just respects and loves. And so Jim Trussell's a great man. But Marcus is so in touch with the kids today. And you can't BS any kids today.
No.
And just think about Woody Hayes. Couldn't coach today. He'd whack some kid in the head and the kid would say, hey, I'm out of here. And the portal and all that stuff. I mean, a lot of great basketball coaches, football coaches couldn't coach today because the kids just.
No, I mean, and we spent some time talking about it, but when the players are making almost as much as the coaches, and these aren't professional players.
No.
These are young 19-year-old kids. When we got a quarterback, Nico
Iamaleava, yeah, from
Tennessee,
yeah.
And he's good. He's a good quarterback. Threw for 2,700 yards, maybe 18 TDs, 5 interceptions.
Like that, yeah.
And his dad comes and says, "My kid wants $4 million." Are you kidding me? My kid wants $4 million?
Yeah.
And well, your kid's out of here. Go. I mean, get into the portal.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what you and me and us grew up with.
Yeah. No, not at all.
Whole different world.
And you think about it today, the portal has openings for about 400 kids. There's 650, 700 kids jumping into the portal. And what are you going to do next year, son?
Yeah.
You had a chance to develop yourself. I mean, we've got Notre Dame guys that are transferring. I understand it. It's the way of the game today, but it's like with the basketball tournament. You had all the number 1 seeds make the final. It's not the way it was supposed to be. You're supposed to have a team that gets a hot shooter, and all of a sudden, Villanova winning the national championship. Yeah. Raleigh Massimino was never right after that, but it's just amazing what could happen, and now it really can't happen very often.
Well, no, I mean Jim Valvano.
Yeah.
I mean, winning the national championship. And running on the floor, trying to find somebody to hug.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to hug him. And Lorenzo Charles just plucks the ball out of the air, scores, NC State wins.
Yeah, and
I know NC State was not a number 1 seed that year.
If I Samuel James said, Coach Guy Lewis.
Houston.
He says, we ain't got no air ball drill.
Yeah.
If that hadn't been an air ball drill, we'd have got the rebound, but we ain't got no air ball. Well, hey, Guy, guess what? You finished second.
Play ball. That's right. You were. That's why you got beat.
That's right.
All right, so go back in time a little bit, and this is, this is a really hard and tough. I mean, this would be a hard question for anybody, but I mean, you've been doing this since I was knee high to a grasshopper. And I know you've had to have some favorite players or favorite teams or favorite coaches that you've covered throughout your tenure. Reflect on maybe a couple of those.
Well, I'm in the process of writing this book, and it's called The Good Stuff. The working title is The Good Stuff. It's not about a particular game or a particular team. It's about the good people I've known at Notre Dame and why they're good people and why Notre Dame is loved by so many people. And Moose Krause was a very dear friend, by the end of his life. He died when he was 79. And Colonel Stevens called me. He says, "You're on this list." I said, "What list?" He says, "You're an honorary pallbearer." I said, "For Moose Krause?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Colonel, I shouldn't be on that list." He goes, "Oh, it's no big deal. There's 40 of you." There's 40 of us.
40.
And I got Nordy Hoffman sitting on my left, who brought Moose to meet Rockney. And on my right is John Latner, who couldn't believe the beautiful work they had done with the gold and everything in the basilica. But it was quite a thing. But Moose had so many stories about things he'd done, and this is like one of the lead stories. And I'll make it a lot quicker than it needs to be. But he got a call when he was in Boston. He was doing basketball exhibitions, and a guy from New York called him. Said, "Would you play an exhibition against my team?" So we raised some money so we can go out and do this. We're going to read some gospel verses at halftime and stuff. And he said, "Yeah." So he got his manager to rent the arena. They used to play where the Boston University hockey team plays now, because the owner of the Boston Garden said there'll never be basketball here. It's a hockey arena. And of course, they might have played a little basketball.
Yeah, a couple of games.
Yeah. Some guy named Round Ball with Red, maybe.
Yeah.
Something like that.
50s and 60s.
Yeah.
So Moose sets it up, and the guy comes in and they play an exhibition. And they raise some money, and the guy's in the back room, he's counting, and he says, 2 for us, 1 for them, 2 for... What are you doing? And the guy says, "Well, they won't know how much money we made." And Moose said, "No." He says, "Give them half of what we took in, and give them half of what we got, and we'll pay the expenses out of what's left." He said, "You're not going to make any money." He said, "I'm not trying to make money. I'm trying to help this guy. He's got a nice idea." You know what the guy's name was? Abe Saperstein.
Harlem Globetrotters.
They went out and they bought striped uniforms and a bus.
Oh, boy.
And from that day on, whenever they went somewhere, they'd call Moose, "Hey, we're going on the ship over to England. And you got a place." It's like, "Yeah, I'm coaching at Notre Dame. I can't go." And then they'd say, "We're going on the train to California. You got to play. I can't go." One time, Moose asked him for a favor. He had a captain of the basketball team. Moose coached basketball for 2 years at Notre Dame after George Keegan died in office. A little trivia for you. But he was coaching. He had this kid that wanted to come back his senior year and then go to law school. And the kid got polio. And so he couldn't play. So he called Saperstein, "Would you guys play an exhibition to raise some money to send this kid to law school?" You name the date. They packed the old field house. It was unbelievable. And they've been here every year since.
Yes.
And he said they made money for this kid to go to law school. Now, the night that Moose died, December 10th, 1992, I'm at a Christmas party for the Hibernians, the Irishmen. And this kid comes up to me and says, "Isn't it terrible about Moose Krause?" I said, "More than you know." I said, "We got to be pretty close." He said, "My dad raised 6 kids out of a wheelchair because of Moose Krause." And I said, "It wouldn't surprise me. He did so many things." My buddy John Thompson calls me. He says, "Do you have any of those recordings with Moose that I could use on the air Monday?" And I'm going through them. He's telling the story about the Globetrotters. And the guy's name that got polio was Marty O'Connor, who later on went on to be president of the Monogram Club and things like that, and a lawyer. And it was his son, Charlie, who came up to me that night, taps me on the shoulder and says, "My dad raised 6 kids out of a wheelchair because of Moose Krause." And I'm just sitting there like, how does that happen? You talk about
It's amazing.
You talk about the good stuff.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
And that's really my intention, because I was really privileged to be around a lot of Heisman Trophy winners, All-Americans, some great basketball players. And, I traveled with Digger and the guys for 5 years. I was with Paul Maneri for 7 years in baseball, hockey with Dave Poulin. And to know these guys and to capture the story. I'm like an Irish storyteller back in the 1400s. You didn't have a Encyclopedia Britannica, or you didn't have Google to look up the history of your fiefdom. You had to count on people telling you the story. And I feel so blessed to have heard those stories and obligated to pass them on.
Sure.
Because it's such a special place.
Talk about your good friend Chuck Freeby, who for 30 years you guys worked together and brought high school sports to Michiana, and all of the things you did for the high school players in this area.
Well, anybody that knows Chuck Freeby knows what a special guy he is. What a wonderful family he's raised. He had 6 children. That's another story for another day. But, well, one of the things about Chuck was I knew him from the time he was about 13. And he used to volunteer to do the PA announcing at Rice Field in Elkhart. And part of that deal, he knew what went on at Notre Dame Stadium. So he would prepare game notes, 4 or 5 pages. Put them on.
Hey, you're not on TV, so that doesn't do anything for our listeners. 2 inches of game notes. There you go.
So he had these game notes ready for you. And then his mother would always bake chocolate chip cookies, and they were outstanding. And then Chuck would bring a cooler full of pop up to the press box at Rice Field. And he would be down on the bottom step, and he'd just get it up 2 steps and stop. And get it up a couple. And it was an early season game, so it was hotter than blazes. And he finally gets all the way to the top, and he wheels in this cooler full of cold drinks, and he's holding on to the windowsill. And so he finally gets his breath up, and Lynn Thornton, Jerry Black, and I are sitting there getting ready to do this game. And he walks over and he says, "Would you like a cold drink?" And I go, "Nah, I'm fine."
They brought some up already. They already brought some up, Chuck.
He had busted his tail to get that pop up there. So I've known Chuck since then. And again, he was one of those guys. When we hired him in '46, he was doing work for the Elkhart Truth, for the South Bend Tribune, WNDU. He was working, as many jobs as they had kids, because you got to feed them. And when I had an illness back in 2003, he came in and stepped in, and we had great fun working together. And I didn't know anybody that prepared as much as Chuck did, and just really loved what he's doing. And he's doing a streaming broadcast now, so I'm happy for that. But Chuck was the best.
Yeah,
awesome.
and
so was
your
Greg Wallen,
your camaraderie on air was great with him too.
Well, we had a lot of fun. We went up to Lakeshore High School.
Yeah, for the War on the Shore.
The War on the Shore.
Yeah.
And it was 96 degrees. And the sun is shining. They want us to turn around and face the sunset because the lighting would be better for the picture.
Sure.
And I mean, we are just pouring sweat all over the place. And we told our director, "Hey, you can shoot our backs next time, but we're not turning around looking at it." And oh my goodness, was it hot. And it was a great game, Lakeshore and St. Joe. And that's a holy war up there. And we just had so many great games, state tournament games. Pat, as you know, when you walk out into Northside Gym and the place is pretty packed and the atmosphere there is so special. And we got to get paid to be there.
I know. That's the fun part.
That is unbelievable.
That's the fun part.
What we saw, the players we saw, the coaches we knew. Steve Johnson at Memorial. Some of these guys aren't with us anymore, but they did a great job. And kids around here were, like I said, they were very fortunate to have the quality of the coaching and the administration that was behind it. It's really great.
I remember Steve telling me when one of the games before we were getting ready to play Memorial, he said, "Pat, one of the nice things about getting old is," he said, "there's never a rerun on TV, and I'm always meeting new people."
Exactly. He was a class guy.
He always had a good story.
He spent some time over at Valparaiso, I think, didn't he?
I think so.
With Homer Drew.
Before he came back to the high school level. Sure.
Yeah, we had fun. We did Mid-Continent Conference basketball over in Moline, and then Craig and I drove back.
There's some driving involved with that. So your recruiting stories where you're driving, he could probably rival those.
Yeah, no, that's why I got out of college athletics, was the recruiting and being on the road for 10, 12 hours. And I mean, it doesn't matter if you're tired, right?
Right.
You got to make it home. And one of those times, man, I said, that's it.
Well, Coach Fazio was on Lou Holtz's staff as a defensive line coach. said I was driving over by Moon Area High School in Pittsburgh, right outside of Pittsburgh. Said I pulled over the side
Moon
of the,
Township. Moon Township.
Said I pulled over the side of the road and I looked at myself in the mirror. Said, what in the heck are you doing? You're like 62 years old and you're chasing 17-year-old kids to see if they'll make your career work.
Right.
I'm out of here. So we went to the pros and he
Yeah, exactly.
But that's a tough assignment. But
It is.
man, you know, Valvano used to talk about going to the playground, Al McGuire going to playgrounds in New York. People said, your expense account wasn't very much. It just doesn't cost you anything to go to the park.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and Rick Majerus, and I know you knew Rick Majerus. I mean, everybody who understood athletics knew Rick Majerus. And Rick had a stint maybe for 2 or 3 years where he was the head coach at Ball State. So I got to know Rick Majerus, and he always traveled with a basketball in his trunk. And I say, Coach, why do you have that ball? He said, I'm in Chicago. I'm tired of driving. I see a court. I'm going to go out and shoot some.
Yeah.
And here's the great Rick Majerus on a court in Chicago. And pretty soon everybody says, hey, this is Rick Majerus. All the kids are coming. He said, they came to me.
Well, I have a Rick Majerus story. I try to shorten it up, but he came to Notre Dame on the day it had started snowing where we had the big snowfall.
Okay.
And he had driven down from Milwaukee. Hank Raymonds was the head coach.
Yeah.
Al McGuire retired in 77.
Okay. Yep.
So he came all the way to Notre Dame, got there about a minute and a half before tip-off. And he's, you know, breathing pretty heavy, and he gets to the window and press pick up, you know, whatever. He says, I got to pick up my pass. He goes, what's the name? He said, Majerus. And the girl looked through the thing, and she's getting $4 an hour in a yellow jacket. She's looking through the box, and I don't have anything for Rick Majerus. Oh, it's probably under Hank Raymonds. So she looks and, oh, yeah, I have one for Hank Raymonds. Well, that's the one. Well, you're not Hank Raymonds. He said, I'm the assistant head coach. I came all the way down here, and I got to get in there because we were playing Marquette that next weekend. And she says, I can't give you, you know, we'll get Roger Valdiserri down here. Well, at that time, Roger was doing color for WGN in Chicago with Jack Laurie. So he's on the air. I can't get Mr. Valdiserri, you know, get somebody down here. He took his wallet out, and he said, I laid it down. I took all the credit cards and cash out. Keep it. Take it home with you. Whatever. But give me that pass. And they wouldn't do it. And so finally he got in with, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes left in the first half. And he sat down in his seat, and I had an usher up there that would tell me if there's somebody you want to interview, I'll let you know. So he came up and goes, the guy's here from Marquette. He said, okay. So I went down, and I knew it was Rick Majerus. I said, excuse me, Coach. I said, I'm Bob Nagel from WSBT. And we're wondering if you could do a halftime. I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to him. I didn't hear what's going on. So I met him up around the pop machine at halftime. I'm sorry I yelled. I said, geez, and he told me the whole story. He says, $4 an hour, they wouldn't give me the damn. I'm trying to come in. Coach Raymond's going to want to know why I didn't have anything on the first half or whatever. But, you know, those things would happen sometimes at Notre Dame. And I see what that girl had known Rick, she'd have.
Yeah, no. And how could you not know Rick Majerus? But when Rick Majerus left Ball State, then I got hired. His assistant coach, Dick Hunsaker, got the job, and I got hired, and I had to take Rick Majerus's car back to the dealership. Now I get in the car, and this would have been, I don't know, this was in 1990.
90, 91 at the most.
Yeah, I mean Park Avenue. Beautiful cars back in those days.
Oh, yeah.
I get in.
It was what, maybe a 2-year-old car? Maybe?
No, brand new.
Brand new?
Brand new. Park Avenue from Stoops, a dealership in Muncie. I get in the car. The front seat is propped up with a Louisville Slugger. It's been broke. The front seat is propped up by a Louisville Slugger. There are like orange stains and pizza stains on the roof where he probably had a piece of pizza, put his hand on the roof. There's pizza stains on the seat, and I got to drive in with this car. And the guy, Randy Stoops, I said, Randy, I got Rick's car. He said, don't even tell me. I said, Randy, can I get the Louisville Slugger as a souvenir?
Yeah. I'll give you a half hour to quit. Just another fan, fella.
Got ready to go, man.
Got pretty ladies coming up here kissing you on the
Coach,
cheek.
you remember that lady? She headed up the cheerleaders at Mishawaka when you were coaching.
Is that
It's
Lehman? Angie Lehman.
Angie Lane.
Yeah, she's on the school board of Mishawaka.
Yes, she is.
Yeah. Maybe she wants to hire you as superintendent or something. Who knows?
No. You're just a very good friend. But, we need to, unless we make this a serial that runs, for months or whatever, I just want to thank you guys for
This has been fantastic.
This is great.
to have a microphone in his hand again.
I mean, how does that feel? I mean, good again?
The dream.
Good. Good for you. And obviously, I mean, you've made our show here. I mean, to be able to talk some more time. John, you got anything before he leaves? You got any story you want to ask him?
Oh, the camaraderie he had in press boxes when HME was doing a game and we were doing a game. Bob would walk up. We're all sitting up. Bob would walk up and said, I'm not worried about being here. And I thought, no, this was Bob. Bob Nagel was one of the best. I had fun working with him at WSBT. You remember some of those days, some of those great days that we had. And Bob, it's always been I've always looked up to you as a broadcaster, all the great stories, as a great storyteller that you've been. And man, I miss working with you, but I am so glad you're back and glad to see you have a microphone in your hand.
Got to tell you a quick Jack Brickhouse story.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
Jack was going to come with a Cub caravan to town. And they asked me, who do you want to talk to? I said, on the early show, I'd like to talk to Lee Smith. And then I'd like to talk to Jack Brickhouse. I said, oh, okay, we'll tell him. So Jack came in about 20 minutes before we went on. And I said, Jack, I'm Bob Nagel from WSB. Oh, God bless you, Bob. He says, I watch you all the time. He says, I get you clear as a bell right across the lake. He said, I want to watch Notre Dame or whatever I watch. The people here in South Bend are so blessed to have you. And I'm like, this is a guy I grew up idolizing, And I said, wow. So we finally got it on the air. And I said, I'm here with Cubs Hall of Fame broadcaster Jack Brickhouse. And Jack, another season getting ready to start. I know you're excited. And he said, well, first of all, Bob, let me tell your viewers and listeners what a wonderful gift they have to have you here. I watch you all the time, brother. You do a great job. Here's this guy, owes me nothing, and spends 30 seconds telling me what a great guy I am and how he watches me, And afterwards, I was thinking to myself, what did that cost him? Didn't cost him anything. And so what I tried to do when I was going around, there was a station in Knox that we knew the guys pretty well. I used to go over and they'd say, hey, you think you can do an interview with us before the game? Absolutely. In the first 30 seconds on the air with them, I'd say, you guys do a great job. I said, Chuck and I listen to you guys in post-game show and everything. Man, you do a great job for the Knox Ball Club or Goshen, whatever.
Yeah.
And it doesn't cost you anything to be nice.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right.
It meant the world to me what Jack said. And so you see all these other guys, they're starting out or trying to make it work or trying to, pat those guys in the back. They're doing what I did 30 years ago. Okay, 40 years ago.
Hey, listen, good to see you, man. You look great with that mic. Hopefully somewhere along the line we get you somewhere. Talking sports a little bit more. You're really good at it. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes, man. God bless you.
God bless you, Bob.
And listen to what the doctors say, man.
Yeah, I know.
Listen to the doctors.
I know. They'll tell me the same thing. But I'm just blessed to be up and around and getting closer to the golf course, I think.
It's getting that time.
All right,
Let's get time. Take care. All right,
John.
Always good to see you, my
See you.
brother.
Take care.
All righty.
Why don't you take us to commercial, Pat?
Yeah. Bob, that's just fun listening to him, isn't it?
Oh, God, I love it.
All right, well, let's take a break, and we will come back and talk a little bit NBA basketball.
Medicare plans can be confusing, but they don't have to be. I'm Tony Letcher, licensed insurance agent. I can help you compare your options because I'm appointed with many nationally recognized carriers. With my help, you can find the coverage that fits your needs and budget. I don't want you to be my client today. I want you to be my client forever. Call Tony Letcher today to schedule your free consultation or visit tletcher.com.
Dealing with the loss of a loved one can leave you with lots of unanswered questions and stress. At Hahn Funeral Homes of Mishawaka, we are here to help. Our focus has always been on the families that we serve. At Hahn Funeral Homes, we stand ready to meet your needs and exceed your expectations when selecting a funeral home. Our experienced funeral directors and staff will be there for you every step of the way for all of your funeral service needs. Han Funeral Homes is located at 505 West 8th Street in downtown Mishawaka. You can call them anytime at 574-255-1474 or stop in to get all your answers from our local funeral professionals about all your funeral needs. Han Funeral Homes, a family serving families. Are you sick and tired of relying on somebody else to get you around? Are you coming to Indiana from a place where you just never needed to learn how to drive? Well, if you're looking to hit the road with confidence, Frick's Driving School in Mishawaka has been helping drivers of all ages gain the skills they need for a lifetime of safe driving. With experienced, patient instructors like Mr. Coach Pat King and flexible scheduling, Frick's makes it easy for you to learn to drive easy and stress-free. Whether you're a first-time driver or need a refresher like Mr. Coach Ron Heklinski, Frick's has you covered. Plus, for just $65, they offer the state driving exam in-house. No need to go anywhere else. Visit fricksdrivered.com or call 574-256-0650 to get started today. If you're nearing retirement, or if you're like me and you're not nearing retirement but you still want to get your money right for retirement, the Harbor Group Planned Wealth has you covered with the ability to answer questions like, what specific steps should I take before retiring? When should I draw Social Security? How do I manage investment risk? How much will health insurance cost if I retire? If I'm over 62, which I still am not, how much money can I earn part-time without affecting my Social Security and or my pension? And is it really possible to get a raise if I retire? If you want all those questions and more answered, call the Harbor Group at 855-5-HARBOR, HARBER, or you can contact VP Jessica Rhodes at 765-393-1074, or visit the website harborgroup.com. Securities and advisory services are offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
And we are back. Want to get a little bit of our black sedan in here for
Oh, man, are you kidding me? I mean, Johnny Be Good, that is some good tunes, isn't it?
I love that stuff. Yeah, I do my Detroit lean.
No, a little bit of Motown, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Love the Black Sedan Band.
Hey, so that was so cool with being able to slide Bob Nagel over here. Yeah. And we know he's just gone through some horrific, medical stuff. Right. Had a little bit of his leg amputated. And to be able to bring him here and to talk some South Bend, because I'm not sure if anybody knows South Bend athletics, John Moore, right?
No, I think Bob knows that. He been here all of his life. Even though he's a Marion guy, he really loves South Bend athletics. It didn't matter if it was Marion, St. Joe, the South Bend Public Schools, whatever. Bob was a great storyteller. He was a great jokester, fun to be with in a press box or at a basketball game. No matter what, he's one of the best. And if you're an aspiring broadcaster, listen to Bob Nagel, because he can get you ready to go to a game, and you can close your eyes. You can close your eyes, and you're right there. He's a great storyteller.
So let me ask you this, and I should have asked him. I can't believe I did not ask him this. Did he have a favorite line when it came to a three-point shot? Or, did he have something that he would always go to?
Not really. He never developed that. Like Jack Nolan, when he was the voice of Notre Dame basketball, anytime there was a big three-pointer, got it! Something like that. That was his line. Bob really never came up with a line like that. He was just a straight shooter. He told you what he saw, and you believed him.
Yeah,
he was great. He was great grand.
Well, you put him and Chuck Freeby together on those Wednesday night on the high school games, and they did such a good job at the sarcasm. Would sneak out every once in a while. You could tell even his personality today when he was talking with us. There was always that little sarcasm coming up in some of the things that he would say. But it was sincerity too. Yes. He does it in such a nice way that it works.
Yeah, so. and what always, I was always impressed with WHME how they tried to make that broadcast so professional.
Yes.
And yes. It was never like, well, this is just a high school production. I mean, this is the great Bob Nagel. He does Notre Dame games, blah, blah, blah. And Chuck Freeby does Notre Dame stuff. But this is just a high school production. I mean, to them, on that given night, it was the biggest production for both of them, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And that's what the kids deserved. And they made sure the kids got treated like it was a Notre Dame game or if it was an NFL production because they believed those kids were just as good.
Yeah, so in one of my stops, in one of my coaching stops, and Pat, you could probably speak to this too. I had a fan come to me, and he said, man, heck, he said, I mean, those guys aren't the Indiana Pacers. You're coaching them like they're the Pacers. They're high school players. And I looked at him. I wanted to punch him, number one. Number two, I said, listen to me. To me, they are the Indiana Pacers.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if they're high school, if they're elementary. It's the biggest thing to me to be able to coach them. And, and I know you felt that way too.
I agree. You know, and just growing up, you know, I was fortunate enough there growing up in Anderson that we had some pretty good teams. I can still remember when Tom Carnegie would come to town. And if Tom Carnegie would come to town to interview, you know, at practice and stuff, that means you guys must have been pretty good. Because, you know, in Indianapolis, Tom Carnegie was the voice. And I know going to the semi-state when we were at Fort Wayne, then you dealt with it with Hilliard Gates.
Oh man, that's a name out of the past right there.
So, obviously they even use that in the movie Hoosiers. They use some of that video of him calling that state championship game, and that's another great storyteller way in the back was Hilliard Gates.
But like Carnegie would come to the high school games. You know, he and Tony Hinkle did the high school games.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, what legends they were. And then you had, you know, Tom Carnegie doing the, you know, he was a PA at the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, what was the 500 without Tom Carnegie?
He set a new track record.
You know?
Yeah, so Pat and I always relayed everything to either athletics coaching or players. John, from your angle, name some of the sportscasters who were just the best when you were growing up, and you aspired maybe to be like them.
Ernie Harwell's the first one that comes to mind.
Oh, it's a Detroit Tiger guy. Stop.
No.
Stop.
No, he was a great story. How about
I know
Ben
he
Scully?
was.
How about Ben Scully?
I know.
Jack Brickhouse, Harry Carey, some of those guys. Obviously, Pat
What
Summerall,
about anybody
football.
local? What about anybody local?
Oh, local. Jack Laurie. I just admire Jack Laurie, the way and I still in my mind can hear that when Rocket returned 2 punts against Michigan. That's in my mind how he called that. You know, he catches the ball at the 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Look out there goes, bye-bye Rocket. Touchdown Irish. That great call.
Yeah. And what about Joe Pate?
Joe Pate was great. And I had a relationship with Joe Pate because he worked for the Indiana High School Athletic Association for a while. And I got to see him down at the state finals a lot. Great guy, great storyteller. Joe was another one that I really admired in what he did.
And I'm going to bring another name up, Don Crickey.
Don Crickey, yes. Don Crickey is another one that I listen to and watch and admire. Bob Costas is another one that I really enjoy. Obviously, Chris Berman, you know, from ESPN, another one that, you know, I always was special and watched. So there's a lot of guys out there that I've always admired as broadcasters.
So I didn't hear him mention you or me. Did you?
Not yet. Not yet.
Well, are you to the top of that mountain yet?
It's still amateur hour.
No. Okay. Two other guys that I admire, the two pillars of the community here to my left, Pat King and Ron Hicks, the Hall of Famer and the coming up soon Hall of Famer.
You know what? One of the things that Bob did mention, you know, he mentioned some of these uniforms that are right here next to us. I'm looking right here. There's Ruth Riley's is right there next to it. You know, I had Ruthie in class back when she was in junior high at North Miami.
Really?
Yeah. And here's her Olympic jersey right here next to us. You know, and
that's
all
amazing.
the things that she did. So just, you know, some of the names that you know, he could drop names with the best of them, but he was around them. And, you know, he covered them.
And that was his business. I mean, just like it's your business.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Just like our business is around coaches, you know, their business was a different angle of the coaches.
Yeah.
Telling the story of what's going on with and the many times I interviewed you when you were the head coach at Adams.
Sure.
We had some great conversations and some of that stuff. And it goes back to, as Bob said, the trust factor. When you get together with coaches, they have to trust you. If they trust you, they're going to give you some great information. And I can give you an example. We just finished our 16th year of doing Penn girls basketball on our website. And it's taken me, not that long, but it's taken me time. And now the head coach, Christy Kineski, you know, I have access to practice. I have access to her kids. You know, she shares information that she normally wouldn't share with other people. I built up that relationship and that trust. And when you do that and you tell that story and they like that goes a long way.
I agree. All right, give me some inside scoop. Is she going to Crown Point?
No, she is not going to Crown Point.
Just checking.
No, she plans to stay at Penn, I think, until her daughter graduates. Her daughter enters middle school next year.
Crown Point job's open.
Well, and I asked her about Crown Point. Twin Lakes is open. Huntington North is open, which was really a surprise because she just talked to that guy a couple weeks ago, and then he turned around and resigned last week. So, nope, she's planning to stay at Penn at least for right now.
We've got a couple. We had a couple coaches on the.
Let's Washington's
that's
open.
right. Let's shift
so
gears.
Ryan, okay, what about Ryan Varga? Is he still at South Bend?
Yeah,
Washington?
He's going to lose his dean's position, so he'll probably go back into the classroom and stay as the. And by the way, happy birthday to Ryan. Today's his birthday.
No.
Is he 25 yet?
No, he's 24.
And so when you said South Bend was open, you were talking about
the girls program.
Steve Reynolds.
Steve Reynolds' job is still open.
Yeah, and let's talk about Steve Reynolds going to UT Arlington, right?
Yes. Yeah, going to UT Arlington. And that was because the coach at UT Arlington played formerly at Purdue, and he had that relationship because she worked that Purdue camp, and his kids would go to those teams as you go would go to those Purdue camps, and so he got that relationship going, and that position opened up.
They're going to pack up the entire
family and go. Yeah,
and they've got two daughters that are at LaSalle. One's seventh grade, one's eighth grade. So his intentions was just to reload and start working with the two daughters. One is finishing up eighth grade right now, so he has an incoming freshman.
Yes,
let's go ahead and get some of her friends, and let's start a new generation at Washington High School. And then the opportunities came up with the three older girls to head for Arlington.
Well, and I think one of the other things with South Bend, Washington, too, now is they are going to require it to be a teaching position. They are going to put a caveat on that contract that you must be a certified teacher.
Yeah, but from the state of Indiana, you don't know. Now, that's just something that Washington's putting on.
Right, they're putting on that because they want somebody who's going to be in the building all the time, blah, 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 blah.
And when did that come about? Okay, all right, go ahead, tell me.
That's what we called that the Damon Bailey rule.
Damon Bailey rule. Yeah. I mean, how are you going to tell Damon Bailey, no, you can't coach
at BNL?
Yeah, exactly.
And he goes and wins the state championship with the girls.
Yeah. So
his daughter was on the team.
Yeah, well,
she was pretty good.
So what do you think about the dynamic of Steve Reynolds going to be a college assistant coach, and now he's got three of the kids on the team that are his daughters? I mean, what's your thought about that dynamic?
I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic. Can he coach at this level? He hasn't had that experience. Now, he's played, obviously, at D1 when he played at Western Michigan. But obviously, you guys know there's a difference between playing and coaching. Now, what kind of authority will he have? Being an assistant, not the head man. It's going to be interesting to see how he does down there. I think he'll do okay. But how do you work with the three girls?
It'd be interesting to see what his job description is.
Yeah, what is that?
Is he going to go recruit?
Yeah, is he going to be a recruiter or what?
And is he, he'll recruit the Midwest? Is he going to bring a bunch of Midwest girls down to Arlington? I mean, I think everybody knows where Arlington is. It's right by Texas State, right by Jerry World.
Yes, not too far.
Yeah, it's right at the south end of the runway of DFW.
Yeah, but so this dynamic between Steve Reynolds and the head coach at UT Arlington has to be, that has to be worked out to a T, because number one, if his daughters are not putting forth the effort, are not getting after it, are not what the expectation of a college athlete is, is Steve Reynolds going to be cool when that head coach just rips those girls a new one,
or sets them down,
or sets them down,
or not happy? Let's say they're not happy with their minutes.
That's my concern. That's my biggest concern, because we've seen the girls in their high school careers here have that problem when something
they had carte blanche. Yep.
Yeah, they had carte blanche here, South Carolina. They aren't going to at UT Arlington.
Well, and
now, how do they handle that? How does he handle that as an assistant coach and having to be?
And you can look at each one of them. The oldest one was at Maryland a year, complained of migraines and homesickness, ends up at Purdue. And last year she got hurt, so she really hasn't played for a year. Mm-hmm. The middle one broke her foot during the tournament in high school and didn't play her freshman year. she played she played last year.
Right.
So they have not been on the floor yet at the same time at the college level. Now you've got all three of them coming in there, and they've got a lot of eligibility. Let's see, the oldest one, I think she's only played 1 year, so I think they all have at least 3 years of eligibility.
And you're so you're a good person to ask this question to, because you did coach your son.
I did.
So when your son needed his ass ripped, did you rip his ass, or did an assistant coach rip his ass?
It was me, and he still didn't like me. But again, you just make an example of him, and we did okay. The one thing I learned from Mike Drews over at Elkhart was he told me, and his son, Bryce, had played for him over and was in the Indiana All-Star at Elkhart. He said, if your son's not the best player or the worst player, if he's somewhere in between, somebody's not going to be happy.
Exactly.
Because no matter if your son's in the game, that means somebody else's kid's on the bench, and they're going to find 20,000 reasons. And the main one is, why is your kid playing? Well, you just said it, because he's my kid.
Yeah.
And they're going to have excuses and arguments. Well, my kid's better than him, or this, that, and the other. So, he and I talked a bunch, and I told him, said, look, here's what we've got to do to be successful, because they've already got the starting lineup set up. They've already got the leading scorer. It's like that 12-year-old Little League All-Star team that's now 15, and the 12-year-old dad comes up and says, here's the lineup from when they were 12-year-olds when we won the state in Little League, and said, here's the lineup that you need to have. They've already got it spelled out, and you're the new guy, and here come, what are you going to do? So that's kind of what we fell into in Southern Indiana. Everything was already spelled out. They just needed somebody to sit on the bench and let them play.
Yeah, but
in their world.
But in parenting and coaching high school kids has changed so much because of the dynamic at home. And I'll give you a little example of this. When I was playing high school basketball at South Bend St. Joe, I was coached by the legendary, great coach, Bob Donowald. Mm-hmm. Now, Bob Donowald coached my older brother also. And I was a junior in high school, and Coach Donowald was on me hard. And I remember this was probably maybe the first month to 6 weeks in the season. And I came home 3 straight days. I mean, we practiced in the morning at 6, so we got a family dinner. And not many high school kids have a family dinner anymore. So we would sit down at the table at 5:30 and go around. And my dad would say, how was your day? How was your day? How was your day? I mean, we had 6 kids. And so he got to me. Oh, man, Dad, Coach Donald, he don't know what he's doing. He's busting my chops all day, blah, blah, blah. My dad would never say anything. The second day, we go around the table. How was practice today? Any better, Ronnie? Oh, no. Coach Donald wouldn't give me any clock, blah, 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 blah. Third day. Hey, Booty, how was your day? Oh, great, Dad, blah, blah. Hey, Mary Ellen. Oh, great, Dad. Ronnie, how was your day? My dad tried to put on a good face.
Right, yeah.
And there I go. Oh, Dad, he didn't play. I was a scrub. I couldn't even get any clock on the floor. And my dad said, Ronnie, he said, go downstairs and get your workout clothes. So my dad was my head coach at St. John the Baptist.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm thinking my dad is going to take me to Lafayette Gym by Washington High School there.
Right.
And he's going to work me out. He's going to get my confidence up, right? Because that's what dads do.
Right.
And they listen to you. They listen to you whine. And we turned the wrong way. We're not going to Lafayette. I said, Dad, where are we going? He said, you're going to Donowald's house. I said, stop the car. What do you mean I'm going to Donowald's house? He said, you're turning in your gear because you're quitting. I said, whoa, I said, I don't want to quit. He said, I am so damn tired of every time I come home, you belly aching like a little 5th grade schoolgirl. And I said, Dad, I'm not quitting. He said, yes, you are. We got to a block, and I'm trying, the car's going, I'm trying to jump out of the car. We get to a block before Donowald's house, and he pulls over on the side of the road. He said, let me tell you something right now. He said, you ever come home and whine and complain again, and you'll never play again. And he said, your job is to go in, compete your ass off, play, and let the chips fall where they may. But Donowald's a Hall of Fame coach, and he doesn't have to put up with crap from you. And he said, I'm not putting up with it either. Now, how many of those conversations go that way in today's athletic world?
Not very many.
Not very many, no.
Not very many. But I'm sure you're going to find some parents say more than you know, but at the same time, you don't hear about those. Personally, there was a group of us when I was playing in high school. Our coach, Ray Estes, who's a Hall of Famer, by the way.
Ray Estes is great.
And when we came through there, especially my junior year, senior year, we were pretty good. And,
pretty good. You were number one in the state, right?
I saw we were pretty good.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, we were pretty good.
That's one of
grapes.
Well, that's one of the pillars of our community. He's very humble.
Yes,
we were
absolutely.
Very humble.
Well, but
You were damn good.
and I learned it from some of the things we did there. He would chew me out. There was like 4 of us. It was me, Jerry Quire, Jeff Janess, Danny Skaggs, and John Pistol. So there's 5.
And John Pistol only went on to become the director of the FBI, right?
Yes, he was the FBI director.
Yeah, the FBI director.
Assistant director.
And then the president of Anderson
Right
University.
now he's getting ready to retire as the president of Anderson University. Oh, yeah, by the way.
Yeah, by the way.
But we kind of named ourselves the Damn It Brothers because we all had the same last name.
Yeah, damn it. Damn it, King.
And finally, he grabbed me one time by the shirt. I mean, he did a Bobby Knight and just grabbed me by the shirt and he said, listen, he says, I've got to chew your ass out because I can't yell at those other guys. Like that. Because he knew if he yelled at Roy or Tony or some of those other guys, they'd pass. They couldn't handle it.
Yeah, they'd pack up.
So anytime one of our 2 Indiana All-Stars, anytime they did something stupid, it was one of the Damn It Brothers that got it.
Yeah.
King, damn it, Quire, damn it, Pistol, damn it. Like I said, we all had the last name, and we still laugh about that 50 years later.
Isn't that funny?
But it worked.
It did work.
And Nagel mentioned, people don't remember what happened in geometry class. They don't remember what happened in, the choir people might have some fun stories or band camp, stuff like that. But those are stories that people don't know about. Those are things that go on in the locker room, that happen on the court, had nothing to do with the score of a ball game or how many rebounds you got or anything like that. But that just the fun of that was just, like I said, I still remember all that.
Yeah, and I think in today's and I've said this too, and I'll stand by this, and I think this is really true. I think maybe 15 years ago, the high school head coach was still the number one guy in the lives of those guys, high school athletes. Yeah. But now it's the AAU coach. Mm-hmm. It's the personal trainer.
Right.
It's the personal trainer. It's the dad because he's paying AAU and the personal trainer. And now the high school coach might be number 4 on the list. And I think that therein is the problem.
Well, I agree.
In not only high school athletics, but in a lot of athletics, because now at the college game, it's the agent, it's the financial director, and now the head coach. And now the head coach is not what he used to be.
Well, you mentioned the quarterback from Tennessee earlier, Nico, whatever his last name is, I can't pronounce it.
Nico Iamaleava.
Yeah,
Iamaleava.
And he was a leaving, but he reminded me so much of the Ball brothers with their dad. And Alonzo and Lilo and whatever else, and their dad, how he just dominated negotiations, dominated everything involved with those guys, and now they're all 3 pros, and having to fend for themselves.
Yeah, and we could go on and talk about this for a long time, but I want to talk about maybe 15 or 20 minutes and then call it a show, because Thursday night. And I don't know about you guys. I don't know about you, John. I don't know about you.
You will spend more time than I will.
No, I will watch every pick
because I'm gonna be doing this other stuff. I'm gonna watch the pros.
There's Mr. Irrelevant. The last I'll watch the number 1 pick all the way down to Mr. Irrelevant. I love watching the draft, and so we are going to have 6 Notre Dame players drafted.
Okay,
and in the last since the year 2000, 21 Notre Dame defensive backs.
Notre Dame have been drafted.
DBs.
Wow, I didn't
21
know that.
Since the year 2000.
I did not know that.
And what is Notre Dame? And when you talk about the NFL, what would you say Notre Dame's known for?
Tight ends.
Tight end U.
Recently.
Yeah, tight end U. But then you look at defensive backs, 21 of them is since the year 2000. Well, so round two, and these draft prognosticators, this is 3 nights during the year, and they prep for this for 362 days.
Yes, they do.
And so these are the numbers from prognosticators that I think are pretty good. Xavier Watts, the safety. I think he's the leader in interceptions for Notre Dame. I mean, in a career, isn't he?
He is, yes. He's career.
No.
He is.
He is.
Yeah. I'm just saying, where do they have him predicted?
36.
They have him at number 59. They have him predicted.
Okay.
Round 2.
Okay.
Number 59.
That's what I heard on the radio
to
earlier.
the Baltimore Ravens.
And who else is with the Ravens in the secondary?
Oh, Kyle Hamilton.
Kyle Hamilton, yeah.
Just checking, so they could have two. They could go cover twos right next to each other.
Yeah, because they're both safeties. The cornerback, Benjamin Morrison, they have him projected to go in round 3, number 68 to the Oakland Raiders. Okay? The defensive tackle, and this kind of surprised me because I thought before Riley Mills got hurt, I thought Riley Mills would have been up there a little bit more, but Riley Mills, round 4, pick 129, again to the Baltimore Ravens. And I thought Riley Mills was having a great.
Oh, he had a great year. He had a great year, yeah.
And but that just tells you the depth of this draft. Quarterback, round 5, pick 151, Riley Leonard to New England. I don't know if I see that. I mean,
that's a little light.
As a backup, maybe to Drake May.
I agree. Yeah, I think
Possibly.
so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a backup.
A tight end U. Okay, tight end U, Mitchell Evans, round 5, pick 171, again to New England.
Isn't that interesting? Because a year ago they didn't know whether he would even.
Yeah, he's coming off of.
He had an injury and didn't know if he'd even play.
Major knee surgery. And then round 6, pick number 205, and I could literally see this linebacker Jack Kaiser because of special teams.
Yeah, he could play anywhere.
I mean, to the Washington Commanders.
Well, they had him playing in the secondary in the East-West or the Shrine Bowl or whatever because they were short of players.
Yeah. Now, last year, Notre Dame put 7 players in the draft, and this year 6. And I remember years when not a Notre Dame player was drafted.
Right.
So I think Marcus Freeman is obviously doing a great job of bringing talent and bringing players in. Now, the projected top 10, and John, this is going to be so different for your team, Detroit, because Detroit is so used to picking up in the top 10.
Absolutely. They don't this year. I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, now they're in the back third of the draft.
Right. Exactly.
So number 1, they predict Cam Ward from Miami is going to go to the Titans, and I think that prediction is pretty good. Now, and I'm talking about this from a Bear fan. And this could shift 100 different ways, and whichever way that this could shift, the Bears have done a nice job in free agency and in signing some players and trades to where now they don't have to draft for position.
No, they don't. They're in pretty good shape.
Okay, they can draft the best player.
Yes, they can. They can go for the best player that's there. Yes.
And I've spent the last 4 days in Nashville listening to local people down there talk about the indictment on that draft is if they draft him number 1, does that mean they're giving up on Will Levis?
Well, I think what it means is their quarterback room is becoming better. Now, is there still competition? Sure.
Yes.
Sure. I would give up on Will Levis. I've seen the Titans play a little bit.
There's a reason they're the first draft pick, right?
Exactly.
Now, is it his fault or is it they didn't have anybody around him? Now, I will say this: what was interesting is they've got a new stadium that's in the progress. I've got pictures of it. The shell of it is up. It's in the parking lot right next to Nissan Stadium. So it's going to be ready 2 years from now. So, 2 years from now, they're going to be moving into a new stadium. Does that have anything to do with who they're picking right now? Knowing, hey, we've got a new stadium, we've got money coming in. we need a quarterback.
I think it does, because I think a new stadium, fans to fill that stadium. Do we have a QB that we think is good enough at the top of that draft?
You got a year to get yourselves ready.
Yeah, and obviously, Caleb Williams was going to be the number one pick, no matter who picked.
Right, exactly.
I mean, everybody said Jason Daniels had a great, and he did have a great year. He's a great quarterback. But Caleb Williams was going to, if the Detroit Lions had or needed a quarterback and they had the number one pick,
they would have taken Caleb Williams.
Exactly. Now, number 2, the Browns, and this is interesting. Number 2, the Browns are going to take Travis Hunter from Colorado, wide receiver, cornerback. He came out a couple days ago. He made this silly comment. He said, if I'm not playing both ways, I'm not playing.
Right. That sounds like
playing.
That sounds like Nico at Tennessee.
Well, yeah,
want money.
Yes, a lot of money.
And they were talking about that on the radio too.
Yeah.
They're penciling him in as a wide receiver first, and then possibly as a rotation player on defense.
Now, as I go down this list, and I think this is literally ludicrous when you are going to talk about that Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders played 2 years at Colorado, right?
Yes.
For prime. And they're talking about wanting to retire their jerseys.
Oh, it's a done deal.
It's a done deal. Yeah, they've already made that decision.
That
They're going to
happened
be
this
retired.
weekend.
Yeah, they retired at the spring game.
And I mean, there have been so many players that deserve that, and they have the ceremony maybe 5 years after they retired or after they left.
Mm-hmm.
But to do this after only 2 years?
Yeah, 6 months after they put the uniform.
I mean, all that is prime, right?
That's all prime.
Oh, yeah. And interesting, I spent 5 hours listening to Neuheisel on the radio this morning, or on the way home from Nashville today, who was the coach at Colorado.
Yes.
When they had Bieniemy and everybody else involved there too. So
hey, now that you said that, who's better? Is our show better or Neuheisel's?
Ours.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, his show, he had a good show.
Hit him for me.
Huh?
He doesn't get this.
No, our show's a lot better than what Neuheisel.
The politics with it.
Come on.
Patrick. Neuheisel's is better. I get it.
They're looking for Nagel's phone. Is that your phone?
That's my phone.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right, number 3, the Giants. They're going to take Abdul Carter from Penn State. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because I would say the Giants will need a quarterback, right?
Yes.
The Giants signed Russell Wilson, right?
Mm-hmm.
A stopgap. So, okay, here's where it throws everything in.
The talk on the shows today was, what if the Giants sign Shedeur Sanders
or Jackson Dart, because Jackson Dart has played his way up the top 10 from Ole Miss.
Right.
And what if they take Sanders, you're 100% right. So now everybody comes down.
Shedeur Sanders in New York. What? I mean, that's like Hollywood.
Yeah. No, I got you. So New England is number 4, and they're predicted to take the tackle Will Campbell from LSU, even though he's got alligator arms.
Well, they said, but he can still block people. They said there's 5 different tackles they could take. They mentioned him as the top choice out of the 5.
But
they said his numbers are not, first round numbers, but they said his film, his game tape is.
Yeah. So his arms are that much shorter than they need to be. Does that matter?
That's exactly what I just said.
An inch and a half shorter.
Game film. The game tape shows he's a first round pick.
Yeah. No, exactly. Number 5, Jacksonville takes the best defensive tackle in the draft, Mason Graham.
Okay.
I agree with that. Yeah.
But if Sanders moves up, if somebody trades up, then Mason Graham slides down. And the thought is, I'm a Bear diehard. The thought is that maybe Mason Graham slides. Number 6, the Raiders. They want the running back from Boise State, Genty.
Genty. I think that'd be a good pick for them.
Have at it. Yep, that's a good choice.
5'9", 215. Yeah, very versonal. Yeah, absolutely.
That is a good choice.
Yeah, at number 7, the Jets want the tackle from Missouri, Mambu. And he's a big time tackle, which I'm sure you heard his name mentioned today.
If you're looking at you're looking at edge rushers, a lot of these people get to the quarter. You're talking about the quarterback or the defensive lineman that want to go get the quarterback.
At number 8, Carolina, talking about the edge rusher from Georgia, Jalen Walker. Athletic.
There, again, Georgia's going to have 8 or 10 people in the the draft.
Yeah, and the Saints, Sanders, the quarterback.
If he's still on the board.
If he's on the board, or Jackson Dart from Mississippi.
Right. Yep.
Now, okay, here we go, and I'm a Bear guy, so there could be a number of players that could fall to number 10, and the one who, with this projection, the one who would fall to number 10 is Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State.
Yeah.
And so tell me about Ben Johnson. How much did he play 12 personnel? 12 personnel is one running back, 2 tight ends, and 2 wide receivers.
He did that a lot. Believe me, he did that a ton in Detroit.
He's in the top 5 in the league in playing 12 personnel.
Yeah, exactly.
Almost 43%.
And you're looking at a guy that's 6'6", 261.
Yeah.
Who can block and can catch
and
too.
Sam Laporta like.
Yes, absolutely.
And so if the Bears go that route, then you're looking at Cole Kmet at one tight end, and Tyler Warren at the other. Now, conversely speaking, the Bears were in the bottom third of the league of playing 12 personnel because they played 3 wide receivers: Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Rome Odunze, which were 3 good wide receivers. But as opposed to playing 2 tight ends, you just get that extra blocking scheme.
Yes.
And you can run, and there you go with Detroit.
That's what they did, yeah.
Running the football with Montgomery.
When you have 2 tight ends, teams have to determine strength a different way too.
Yeah.
Because you have to determine, is it wide side of the field, whatever you want to do. So having 2 tight ends is an old-fashioned way of balancing the field.
So I say this, and I'm a person that would study this probably. I would say if Giante is there, the running back, they'll take him. I would say if Campbell's there, they'll take him. I would say if neither one of those are there, watch Tyler Warren.
Yeah, why not? That'd be great for them.
And I would say this. The Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts are at 14. The Indianapolis Colts desperately need a tight end.
Oh yeah.
So if Indianapolis calls the Bears and said, "Hey, let's trade 14 for 10 so we can take Warren," and they give the Bears an extra number 2 and an extra number 3, I say make that trade in a heartbeat because this is a deep draft.
No, I agree. I totally agree.
All right, so talk to us about Detroit. You got a favorite pick for the Lions?
They need some defensive secondary help. That's where they got hurt last year.
Okay.
They need to go after a Xavier Watts. I know he's not going to be there by the time the Lions get there, but a Xavier Watts and Benjamin Morrison.
Well, no, they have Xavier Watts projected at round 2.
Yeah, so
the
Lions could be, and I think if he's there, I think the Lions
might jump on that late first round.
Yeah, they need defensive secondary help in the worst way. They're fine on offense. I think defense, they're solid up front as well as at linebacker, but they got burned a lot in the secondary last year. I think if they go after a Watts-type person or Benjamin Morrison, I think that's where Detroit has to go.
And, both of their lines are stout.
Oh, huge.
Their defensive line is stout.
Coming back next year.
Their offensive line is stout.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't need anything on the line. They need secondary help.
So that is what, Thursday? First round.
Friday. Rounds 2 and 3 Friday.
On Friday.
And rounds 4 through 7
on
from 11 o'clock Saturday till about 3:30. So call me at 4. Call me at 4.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, tonight when I get home, I'm going to watch game 2 of the NBA playoffs. I will watch the pros now because with the NBA, now that we're in the playoffs, they're worried about the name on the front of the jersey instead of the name on the back of the jersey. So I'll watch the pros because right now it doesn't matter who wins or doesn't matter who scores points.
Right.
And Luka found that out real quick because they shipped him off to the Lakers.
Yep, they sure did.
Because here the last couple of years he has scored 30, 40 points for the Mavericks, and they get beat. So this year, they end up, they ship him off to there, and then Davis comes in. They still get beat. But I will watch the games tonight. I thought the Pacers had a great game one the other night. Don't sleep on Golden State. I watched a little bit of them, even though they are a 7 seed. They are a pretty good 7 seed now. They've got everybody healthy, and they won. They won their first game yesterday. They beat up on the Rockets pretty easily. So let's see if Houston wakes up a little bit with that one, and go for it. We've got another guest.
Yeah, no, we have the great Aaron Hecklinski. Aaron, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, and obviously a very, very sad day in the Christian community today with the passing of Pope Francis. And I know Aaron really studies this. Talk about some of the great qualities that Pope Francis possessed in his reign.
Well, the pontiff, I mean, he really kind of changed the way that everybody looked at some social issues, and the way the church changed its views on certain, LGBTQ stances and being more accepting of things that for thousands of years the church has kind of gone away with. And he's accepted he's fought for a lot of the environmental issues in the world right now. And so I think the loss, that the church suffers now shows that, it's a time of change, and it's time to continue progressing through this world. Yeah.
So how long? And John and Pat, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but how long until we see the white smoke coming out of the Vatican?
At the very least, 15 days.
Yes, it has to be. There's
has to be 15 days until the conclave starts.
Yeah.
And then after that, you go through 3 days of voting, and if by the third day they haven't selected a new pope, you go into a day of prayer and continue going on the 3-day cycle.
So do you personally have a front runner?
Not at the moment.
No, I
Still too new.
Well, no, I thought you mentioned a cardinal to me who you thought
there's
would be.
I mean, there's a couple that you hear about in the news, but that's all that the news is going to put out. The media is going to put it out, and it's not. Their decision is based on intense prayer and just making sure that they choose the right person for the church at this time.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that they talked about how Pope Francis gave his last, meaningful speech yesterday, and was actually in the Pope Mobile yesterday, and then suffered a stroke last night. Correct?
Yes.
All right, man.
Yeah, he was with the U.S. Vice President, had a meeting with him yesterday. Is that right?
Yeah, a couple hours before he died, he was meeting with J.D. Vance, Vice President of the United States.
Yes. Really?
Yeah. I saw that
what
on
was
the
their
morning
topics?
news.
Does anybody know
just a greeting and a happy Easter, and J.D. Vance was in Italy, I think, for a quick little.
Yeah, he's in India today. I saw
he was just for a quick little state visit, and that happened. And he went in for just a greeting, exchanged some hellos, some gifts, and a couple hours later, the Pope passed away.
Oh man! All right, you got anything else for us, big boy?
I'm all good.
All right, that's the great Aaron Hecklinski on our Christianity segment tonight. And anybody who and I know that the religion and Christianity and dialogue about it can be a slippery slope sometimes. But when we lose a pope, I think that's meaningful information.
Absolutely.
And does it have? Isn't it interesting that it was the day after Easter that all happened? Because I think I saw pictures of him like in a wheelchair yesterday. He said he was not going to deliver any message. He just wanted to be out in the public where people could see him, and wanted to wish everybody a happy Easter and everything that goes along with that.
Well, hey, boys. I just got to say, I think this was an amazing show tonight. We got the impromptu visit from the great Bob Nagel, and I think all of our conversation with him, bringing back, memories of games and things that he talked about, and then our ability to talk NFL. I think this has been a great show. Johnny, you got anything else, man?
Nope. Glad to be with you guys. If I'm going to hang out with you guys when I can. Not every time, but I will when I can. And just enjoy being with the pillars of the community. You guys do a great job. And you're a benefit down here at broadcast.
You and I
Courtside Friendly's having that all-star showcase up at Berrien Springs High School. You got a dunk contest. You got three-point contest. You got autograph session. Get up to Berrien Springs High School starting about 1:30. We're going to have the girls' game and the boys' game for you. You, me, and Kenny are going to be there. We're going to enjoy that. See some of the great talent we have tonight.
If they don't go to the games, they can find it here on broadcast.
Courtside Press, Elite Class. There we go.
So in that class, will the great Chase Kineski be in there?
He is in there.
So I would be remiss if I didn't say, really, you can't make me an all-star team?
I was saying the same thing. All-state didn't make it a second team all-state.
I would be remiss if they kept a player from Ben Davis on the club to play 7 games and have 7 points a game. Football player going to Notre Dame. How about that?
Hey, we will be back next week. We have another show next week. We have, 3 more in the month of May? Yep. And then we'll call the
and next week will be a very crucial. We'll have Scotty Butler on. And Scotty is a Purdue. He knows Purdue backwards and forwards. He told me today that with the players coming in that Purdue has in the portal, that he thinks Purdue will be a preseason ranked #1 basketball team next year. And we're going to go through that next week with Scotty Butler.
Sounds good to me. All right, well, thank you, everybody, for listening. We will be back next week.
You guys are the absolute best, man. Thanks.